Hello everyone, welcome to this property market update for Rockhampton, the beef capital. So we're going to be deep diving into this property market to unpack and see what's been going on, particularly from the August to November period. And then obviously the property market goes through a bit of a cooling off period around that Christmas time. And then right now we are in the new year. But let's have a look at what the trends have been telling us from the August to November period. So if you are a home buyer, if you are planning on selling your home anytime soon, or if you plan on investing in the area, you're going to get a ton of value out of what's going to be covered here today. We want to provide you with a really good data driven analysis around what's been happening in the property market. Hey, keen to dive in, guys. Let's do this. So again, guys, this has been proudly brought to you by Capricorn Life Buyers Agency. My name is Troy Sabasini. I am the owner of the business. Capricorn Life is part of our life group of brands, and we service the central Queensland region in Rockhampton, Mackay, and Bundaberg, and the surrounding smaller towns on the periphery of those big regional hubs just mentioned. And yeah, we are a buyer's agent, right? And we work exclusively for property buyers, right? So if you do feel like you need help navigating this marketplace, right, central Queensland and those towns just mentioned, feel free to reach out, right? We help home buyers, particularly those that are struggling, that keep missing out, just not securing a property, not seeing off market deals, all of that. And then we also work with a lot of interstate buyers and those that are just generally geographically challenged as well. So yep, we work exclusively for property buyers, guys, and we provide a fee for service. You can visit us on our website to have a bit more of a read about what we do. Visit us on our socials or give us a call on that number. Hey guys, let's dive in. I don't want to keep you guys too long today, guys, but I suppose the overall goal for this market update is to give you a data-driven analysis, right? You might have heard on the news that the property market's slowing down, it's retracting, it's going to crash, interest rates rises, right? There's obviously been a change in sentiment across the country when it comes to the larger markets such as Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne, right? But let's have a look at Rocky and see what's been going on here, guys. But overall, yep, we're going to be looking at the supply side, looking at the demand side, breaking down then what the data is telling us, summarizing with some key takeaways and trends so you can go away and navigate this property market, guys. So we can see here that the median price in Rockhampton as of November 2022 is currently sitting at 357,000, and it's actually up from 346,000 in July 2022. So the median price in Rockhampton overall has grown by 3% in the last 4 months, guys. So there you have it. We've in a marketplace that is increasing here, guys. Different marketplaces such as Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, the larger capital cities, we've seen an obvious retraction there. But we always have to remember that the Australian property market, right, there are markets within that and then markets within that again. And Rocky appears to be on the rise here, guys. The best part of a 3% increase in the last 4 months. So great news overall for the Rockhampton property market, particularly long-term property owners. They're seeing the equities build up in their home as prices are moving in a really good direction. It's obviously going to become a bit more challenging now for particularly home buyers or first home buyers with the lower budget to potentially get into some of these marketplaces now as we see prices on the rise here, guys. But yeah, overall Rocky is clawing away nicely, guys, where we've seen the median house price grow by the best part of 3%. I always say this, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't really know where this median price will go in the next 3 to 4 months, 6 months even, and then forecasting over the long term. But what we can look at is look at what are the data is telling us in terms of its trends, what are some of the gold nuggets we can extract to start to paint a picture as to how the market is likely to perform going forward. But overall, a positive thing in terms of the median house price in Rockhampton. It is growing. We've also had a really large influx of investors. I know just personally our office has been extremely busy with a lot of investor clients, and I know that in a lot of property investment forums, Rockhampton is very popular. I believe Terry Ryder put Yeppoon/Rockhampton on his hot spotting list for 2023, and a lot of big buyers agent businesses that are based in the metro centres, particularly Melbourne and Sydney, are buying a lot of property here as well. So we've also have this influx of investors, and you can see certainly why that's been the case, because unlike different parts of Australia, Rockhampton's actually on the up here, guys. So we've seen that median house price jump by the best part of 3% over the last 4 months, which is very, very great for Rockhampton and its marketplace. So if we were to sort of unpack and maybe find out why that might be the case, we can start to then maybe look at what's been happening on the supply side and then sort of unpack what's happening on the demand side. And that might be the reason why we've seen that median house price grow the way it has been over the last 4 months. But if we can see here from a stock level point of view in Rockhampton, it's now sitting at 0.4%. This is in the month of November, by the way, guys. I'm talking about November. I know we are in January right now, and I'll be doing another market update at around March 2023. But as we can sort of see from the November period here, that stock level sat around 4%, and I can't really see that changing anyway right now, particularly over that Christmas period, much lower or higher than what it currently is. We can sort of see it sits at 0.4%, which means that there are approximately, roughly 159 houses currently listed for sale, right? So in the month of November, this is the velocity of listings that have come online, and it's actually under its 2-year average of 0.5, right? So we had a growing market, right, which basically suggests that demand is higher than supply, right? And we can sort of see here that it's under, its rolling average of 0.5%. So we have I suppose stock levels starting to retract here, guys, and tighten, now sitting at 0.4%, and it's under that average. So overall, if we sort of looked at Rockhampton as a regional hub, what is it, about 80,000-90,000 people, and then on its periphery, close to maybe 100, if you factor in Yeppoon, 100,000 people, and to have the best part of 150 listings on roughly at any given time for the last 4 months is, from a supply point of view, very, very low, considering we do have a lot of big infrastructure projects right now which demand a lot of short-term accommodation in the area, and we also have a lot of people moving into the area as well, and then obviously families growing. So from a stock level point of view, when you start to look at it benchmarked against this population base, it is very, very low here, guys, in Rockhampton. So stock levels are low, and from a supply point of view, this first metric appears to be that stock levels are pretty tight in and around the area. So you've seen there that the best part of 150 properties coming online for the last 4 months, and that trend for a long time under 0.5%. So from I suppose velocity of listings, right, we can sort of see from the previous slide that the market is tightening, and this graph is just reflective of that, right? So if we can actually see here that the inventory levels continue to sit below 1 month after 24 months of tightening here, guys. So we've had this rolling velocity of listings come online, of roughly around 150 per month, right? And then those properties get cleared out each month, but then those properties that are left over that don't necessarily sell in the first month, and those that roll, they actually then roll over to the next month, and they form what's known as an inventory pool, right, on inventory base. And we can sort of see here that this inventory pool has been tightening over the last 24 months, and it's now sitting well under 1 month's worth of inventory here, guys. So basically what that essentially means is that if the marketplace were to go into redundancy tomorrow, right, you put everything on hold and you just sell what's the existing stock currently on the marketplace, and that would all just, pretty much be gone in the best part of a month here, guys. So from a overall inventory point of view, when you have a population base of around 100,000, and you have roughly around 1 month's worth of inventory, you start to see here that from a supply point of view, the inventory in Rockhampton is looking tight, and supply overall based on those listing velocities and now this inventory pool is looking very, very low, and that could be a really big contributing factor to that median house price growth we've seen over the last 4 months by the best part of 3% here, guys. And yeah, look, it's pretty scary, that trend line. Actually, it just goes to show, that whatever basically is coming onto the marketplace is really getting chewed up and swallowed here at a really rapid pace. In fact, that's why you've started to see this tightening and contraction here over the last 24 months. Yeah, guys, pretty scary stuff what's been happening, but it's all really good signs, I suppose, particularly for those that are investors, because we might be in a market here, right, where supply is really low and demand potentially really high. So there's a lot of potentially short-term gains here to make from a house price growth point of view, in terms of the Rockhampton market outlook for the next 24 months in particular. But it just goes to show that overall that supply is low, and real estate agents might have a lot of trouble in getting new listings, right? And even people might be scared of potentially selling because there's just not enough options for them if they decide to sell to go and buy another home, guys. So yeah, overall supply in Rocky is looking pretty grim, in fact. So we've just looked at those two supply side metrics, and they're painting a pretty grim picture in terms of what's happening on the supply side. If we now were to poke our head over and look at what's been happening on the demand side, we like to look at days on market and what that is telling us in terms of what's happening on the demand side, right? And all days on market essentially is how long or how many days does it take for a property to sell. And the lower the days on market, that means that the quicker properties are selling, which means that it's a pretty hot marketplace. And if it's quite high, then we know that properties are taking generally a little bit longer to sell. So it might be a balanced market, or a market that's rather cool. But we can sort of see here that Rockhampton, the November days on market sit at 46, which is actually a small spike since August. So with that small spike, I could probably say there that August and September we probably were sitting at around an average of 40 days on market, and there's been a slight jump there in terms of how quickly properties are selling, right? So overall though, just on that days on market sitting at 46 days, that's really, really good in terms of what's happening on the demand side. Because if you think about it, the standard contract, right, the standard settlement for a property in Queensland, let alone Rockhampton, is roughly 30 to 35 days. So here we have most properties selling on average around 46 days. So that's really, really good. That just goes to show that most properties are selling within the first week they go online. So that is a very, very heated marketplace where demand is rather strong, right? And we've seen that slight jump since August and September, but all that could be is a smaller sample size that we're dealing with, and it might have been skewed by a couple of properties that have been sitting on the market for a long period of time that have skewed the data that's taken it from that average of, let's say, 40 days to 46, because a property might have been sitting on the market in a less desirable part of town, might have sold for roughly 70 or 50 days, dragging up that average from 40 to 46. But yeah, overall days on market is looking really strong in Rockhampton, and from a demand point of view, it's really telling us that demand is very high in the area. And we also like to look at what's been happening with the vendor discounting rate as well, because that will determine really what's also happening on the supply side, and all the vendor discounting data metric is right, is for every property that does go online, vendors are slightly discounting it at what percent in order to get the sale. Let's say a property comes online in Norman Gardens for 460,000, they sell it, end up selling for 445,000. So they've essentially discounted it, the best part of 3% there to get the sale. So we can sort of see on average that vendor discounting sits well under 3%. So that goes to show that majority or bulk of properties that do come online, only 3% of them are actually discounting, and that overall is a really strong discounting rate, because it just goes to show that not a lot of people are selling property or taking much less than what they're asking for in and around the area, guys. But from the demand side metric of days on market, Rockhampton is looking very strong right now. I don't generally look too much into regional auctions because they don't really give us a great insight as to what's happening, particularly in regional markets. They're not really a good, I suppose, metric to temp check and diagnose what's happening in the property market. And we can sort of see here that this is evident of that, because there's no real data or no real solid data to report for auctions in Rockhampton over the last 4 months. And we can probably sort of see here that just from an auction point of view, over the last 4 months, we probably had in total, I'd say, close to 10 auctions in and around Rocky. So, pretty poor overall, and none of those auctions have looked as though they've cleared. Just from what the data is telling me here, guys. This data, it's a very reliable source that I get it from. However, if there are some inaccuracies, I'd be sure to update this in due course. But for now, demand in terms of what's happening in terms of auctions in Rocky, guys, there's nothing really to report here. So the last demand metric we use to determine what's been happening on the demand side is really working out what the absorption rate is, right? And all the absorption rate essentially is of the percentage of listings that have went online, how much of those has sold, right? And we'd be able to form a percentage from that. That will really determine, what's happening from a demand side point of view in and around Rockhampton. But overall, we can see that Rockhampton is experiencing an extremely high absorption rate of 99.5% from the month of August to November 2022. And this is actually up, right? This is up from 96% during the April to July period. So we've only had an increase in demand, right? And this is pretty scary stuff to know that the absorption rate is so high, because all that essentially means is that for all of the properties that are coming online, the best part of 99.5% of those are getting consumed over the last 4-month period, right? And that's actually up from the previous 4 months. And that's probably why we've started to see that median house price surge along, right, and supply low, because the demand appears to be extremely high, and at the current velocity of listings, it's just not enough to sustain that demand, because we wouldn't be seeing this absorption rate as high if there was enough supply to cater for the demand. But right now, everything that's been coming online for the last 4 months is Rockhampton is just getting consumed, guys. So if you are planning on potentially selling anytime soon, then now's a great time to sell, because demand is extremely high, and the percentage of you selling in this case, is close to 100%. If you are a buyer in this market, it appears to be rather challenging conditions, because when you have a high absorption rate like this, what that generally means too is that multiple bidding, right? A lot of properties that do come onto the marketplace, because there's so much demand, there are multiple offers scenarios, right, where a property would come online and there's best part of 10 to 12 bidders, and that makes it very difficult for buyers trying to navigate this market because they eventually miss out because people are outbidding them. So overall, yeah, from a demand point of view, very, very high in Rockhampton. I suppose from an investor point of view, if you could get into this marketplace as an investor, demand looks to be extremely high with no end in sight by the looks of it, particularly over what's been happening over the last 4 months. Then we are in a marketplace where we're going to see that median house price potentially continue to grow if this absorption rate continues to remain really, really high. But yeah, crazy stuff what's been happening on the demand side here, guys. And overall, that's, supply is really low, demand appears to be very high. We've seen that, increase in the median house price overall, but positive signs for sellers, not so positive for buyers in and around the area, guys. Could be very challenging conditions here. So seeing what's been happening on the supply side and on the demand side for the housing stock for purchase, right? And now we want to look at what's been also happening on the rental side, because there are a lot of people that are potentially looking to move into the area, want to understand what's been happening on the rental market, and there might be people looking at potentially investing in the area, so want to understand what's been happening with the rental trend so that they can jag a rental property here and do okay. So we can sort of see here from a rental point of view that the median rent currently sits at $388 per week, and this is for houses in Rockhampton. It's actually up $4 or 1% since August 2022. So yeah, overall we are in a rising rental market there, and we can sort of see that trend over the last 4 months where that median rent overall is rising, guys. And I don't have a crystal ball as to where this median rent might go, but when we unpack potentially future supply, whether or not that might be enough to alleviate some of that rental pressure, guys. But with the rents obviously growing over the last 4 months, that probably means that we're also dealing with a very low vacancy rate here, guys, and I'm going to get to that in the next slide. But overall, if you are planning on moving into the area, you're looking at on average here, the best part of looking at close to $400 a week, and this is the average here, guys, and this is for houses. And Rockhampton has a bit of a diverse array of stock and diverse array of suburbs and demographics. So there'd be properties that are or houses in particular that are renting for that, basically that sub $300 per week, and there'd be properties that are renting well above 400, 500, and it's sort of created this average or this median of around 388. So just remember that there are suburbs that are going to be much higher per week, and properties that are going to be much higher than 388, and there'll be properties that will you'll be able to rent probably for much lower than 388. But just remember that this is the median. But overall, if you're an investor, also really positive signs here that you are in markets where rents are growing, right? And if you looked at a $4 increase every 4 months, your average rent could increase by the best part of close to $16 there each year. So that's good to know that your cash flow can increase and your yield can grow also year on year, guys. But overall, from a median rent point of view, that's what's happening in and around Rocky. So I've just said that we've seen that median rent in Rocky grow, the best part of $4 over the last 4 months, and that what could be a contributing factor to that is vacancy rates, right? The supply of stock is just not enough to sustain the demand, so it puts downward pressure on supply, so people continue to rent their properties at a premium. And we can sort of see here that vacancy rates actually have been continuing their downward trend over the last 4 months, and it's now sitting at 0.8% with only 42 vacancies currently available for rent, and this is in the month of November, guys. So pretty scary stuff in terms of the supply side, sitting well under 1%, and it's actually sat around that 1% for a very long period of time there, for the best part of 12 months. But over the last 4 months, it's just gotten tighter and tighter, and it's putting downward pressure on supply and stock, and then obviously that in turn is causing property owners to jack up their rents or make market-based adjustments based on the demand of rental properties in the area. And as I said in one of the previous slides, we have a lot going on in and around the area as well. Big infrastructure projects, right, which generates and creates a lot of short-term employment, medium-term employment. So then those people that come into the area, if companies are providing, let's say, campsites or housing stock for their workers, then they obviously need to rent locally. So we have a lot of those big projects where workers are getting, taken into this economy and then putting pressure on rental supply. But we also have a big short-term population, but also a medium and long-term population of people moving into the area and rent, and it appears to be really, really low and just not enough supply right now in the marketplace. And like I remember Gracemere only 12 to 24 months ago had like a 7-8% vacancy rate, and now Rockhampton overall is sitting well under 1%. So that means that Gracemere alone as a suburb in Rockhampton dropped from the best part of 8% down to 1%. So crazy stuff, guys. What's been happening on the rental market, and when vacancy rates also this low, that means that, again, similar to what's happening on the buy side, right, is multiple applications, right? So for every rental property that does come onto the market or becomes available for rent, there are multiple applications, right? And I've heard from a number of property managers around town in some of these really desirable pockets and some of the really desirable properties, the best part of 20-30 applicants per property in and around the area, guys. So from a rental point of view, it's starting to look really, really grim. I suppose if you're an investor, you can cash in on this opportunity, but it's not necessarily too good for tenants right now, as their rents will probably most likely increase when their lease is up for renewal, and then those particularly looking at renting or coming into the area might have a difficult time in securing a property here, guys. So overall, guys, we've seen supply and demand both on the sales side and on the rental side, and they appear to be grim, on both sides of the equation there, guys, where there's just not enough housing stock to supply demand for people that want to buy, and there's just not enough housing stock to supply those that want to rent in the area. So what we do have to now look at, right, is the pipeline of supply, right? What's new supply is going to come into the marketplace, right, and take some of the pressure out of the market, right, and cater for that demand. And building approvals are a good data metric to look at to sort of see what might be coming online in the future, right, in terms of supply, and then what that correlates to in terms of stock to then take out some of the pressure in the marketplace. But as we can sort of see here, future supply in and around Rockhampton, we have a total of 98 building approvals, which is year to date for the 2022 to 2023 financial year, and it's currently trending lower relative to previous years. So we can sort of see there that over the last 3-4 years, just overall those levels of approvals have been rather low, particularly after coming off the back of from basically 2013 up to about 2018. We've sort of had really high levels of building approvals. So most likely what tends to happen anyway naturally is developers relax a little bit after they've just bought a whole lot of new stock into the marketplace, so they get a bit complacent around future supply, so it tapers off and then it tends to pick up again. So what we're probably seeing here is just a natural result of a lot of new supply that happened for the best part of 2013 up to around 2018. But over the last 4 years, it's certainly been rather low, but even year to date is also quite low when it's benchmarked against those previous years. But what this is telling me, guys, overall is that there's been low levels of approvals, particularly in the 2021 to 2022 financial year, and then in the 2020 to 2021 financial year, because those are the years that I'm looking at here, because generally with building approvals, right, it'll take roughly around 2 to 3 years before developers bring stock to the market, right? They get building approvals first. They lodge a development application, get building approvals, etc. Mobilize finance, go through construction, and then new supply comes onto the market. So we've had those low levels of approvals in those 2 years I just mentioned, 2021 and 2022, and that means that supply is most likely to roll over into the 2023-2024 period. But with that being relatively low, is that going to be enough to take the heat out of the marketplace? And we can sort of see here that, yeah, overall, we don't know. I don't actually know what that does translate to in terms of overall stock, but I do know that just looking at the Rockhampton market makeup, I know that there's some high density in and around the CBD there with that new loft apartment going up. So that's some high density in and around the city. There's some medium density in and around the inner south with some townhouses and apartments that are popping up. But I think a large majority of the new supply is mainly house and land subdivisions out towards Gracemere and the Parkhurst area. So that's where the bulk of the new supply is coming to the marketplace. So there's not a lot of supply when you look at it, because if you think about it, right, house and land packages are very slow in terms of the amount or builders can build house and land packages at any given time. So that really does slow down the supply side. But when you look at it, one house only caters for one family, whereas one apartment building can cater for 20 or 30 families or potential tenants. So we're not seeing a lot of that high or medium density, mainly low density supply coming to the marketplace. So from an overall future supply point of view, it is pretty grim in the area, and it's something that we certainly have to watch, because with so much demand right now for property, for rental, and for purchase, to have this level of building approvals right now is pretty concerning, and we might be in a situation like this where demand is higher than supply for quite some time here, guys, in and around Rockhampton. So that could have been a lot to swallow, particularly for those that don't necessarily look at the data and just read what's in the newspaper or some high-level commentary from real estate agents. No one necessarily does what I tend to do with these market updates, is really give a data-driven analysis and break down what's happening so that then you can be best informed. This is just all value so that then you can go away and navigate the property market. But if I were to give you some high level takeaways of what the data has told me, so you can put that on your back pocket and then use it as ammunition for your next purchase or your next sale, I can probably start off with what the median house price is, and we can sort of see that, yeah, it's still growing in and around Rockhampton, and it has not retracted despite those headwinds I mentioned at the start of the update, which was around those consecutive interest rate rises, right? That hasn't slowed down the property market at all, right? There's obviously been a lot of doom and gloom in the media around the property market crashing or retracting, starting to cool off. That's been far from it. And there's been also some reports that migration into Queensland is certainly slowing as well, but that from what the median house price is telling us in and around Rockhampton appears to be not affecting the market at all. So the median house price is growing, guys. So if you're an investor, home buyer, or home seller, it is pretty good all round for where everyone could potentially make money, whether it's now, in the future, whether you're buying or selling property. From a supply point of view, we can see here that supply overall is really, really low, and the current velocity of listings is just not enough to sustain the current demand with those extremely high absorption rates on the demand side. So we are hoping that new supply might be able to come onto the marketplace to alleviate some of that pressure, but that's also looking pretty grim, and it's actually one of my last points that I'll cover off. But yeah, overall supply is tight, guys. Demand is high. So when you have a marketplace where demand exceeds supply, that's economics 101, and that just results in price appreciation for houses in and around the area. From a rental side, yeah, vacancy rates are tightening and it's putting downward pressure on supply, and it's continuing to drive up that median rent. So I can't really see that rental market, particularly those vacancy rates, jumping anytime soon, or those median rents slowing down, because there's just not enough new supply, as I alluded to on the previous slide, that might be in the pipeline to take some of that pressure out of the marketplace, given that we have so much going on in the local economy right now in terms of people that need houses. It's just going to be quite challenging conditions to sustain that demand. But yep, from a rental point of view, guys, things are really grim there also. And lastly, supply, future supply. Overall, we've seen, the supply remain really low in terms of houses for sale, and we've seen supply remain really low in terms of houses to rent. So what will need to happen is, new supply come onto the market, house and land packages, apartments, townhouses, units in and around the city to take away some of that pressure. But from what we've sort of seen with that data in the previous slide, there's not enough there potentially in the pipeline to take out some of that heat. There might be some small townhouses and units that might take some heat out in the short term, particularly that rental market. But over the longer term, yeah, it's probably just not enough right now to sustain that current demand. But yeah, guys, I hope that's been really insightful, and that's the property market update for Rockhampton. Thank you for tuning into this market update, guys. My name is Troy Bassini, and this has been proudly brought to you by Capricorn Life Buyers Agency. I am the owner of the business. I am the head of research. And again, we are a buyers agent that provides a fee for service, and we represent buyers exclusively. So if you feel as though you are a buyer that needs to navigate this Rockhampton marketplace and it looks to be rather challenging conditions here, guys, feel free to reach out, visit us on our website, give us a call, visit us on our socials, and we can have a chat from there. If you do have any questions pertaining this market update, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section and we can unpack that together. Thank you, guys, and bye for now.